There it is. All right, here we go. This is from Bitcoin News as well. It's very zoomed in. Okay, so the Tezos co-founder, you're going to love her. The Tezos co-founder calls Bitcoin pretend internet money on CNBC. Let's see what she has to say.
No, I think basically what we're seeing is something similar to what happened at the beginning of COVID, where folks get a sense of something that looks like a recession, and the first thing they decide to sell is their pretend internet money. Yeah, the news coming out of Japan obviously correlates with quite a bit of that.
So it's nothing different than margin calls, and if you have stocks or Bitcoin or any assets that are sellable, you can take profits and maybe cover what you need to cover elsewhere. Nothing further than that. I mean, gold didn't go down.
I think Bitcoin gets a bit of a shellacking because it's definitely cast more as a speculative currency. It's not treated the same as a lot of other equities.
You just called it pretend internet money.
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
You're saying the quiet part out loud for some people.
I think it's good to acknowledge that it's an experiment. No, I think basically what we're seeing is something similar to what happened at the beginning of COVID, where folks get a sense of something that looks like a recession, and the first thing they decide to sell is their pretend internet money. Yeah, the news coming out of Japan obviously correlates with quite a bit of that.
So it's nothing different than margin calls, and if you have stocks or Bitcoin or any assets that are sellable, you can take profits and maybe cover what you need to cover elsewhere. Nothing further than that. I mean, gold didn't go down.
I think Bitcoin gets a bit of a shellacking because it's definitely cast more as a speculative currency. It's not treated the same as a lot of other equities.
You just called it pretend internet money.
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
You're saying the quiet part out loud for some people.
I think it's good to acknowledge that it's an experiment.
Woosah. I mean, I don't know. You could tell just by listening to her, watching her body language, you can tell that she has no fucking clue what she's talking about with anything. Lots of ums, lots of ahs, lots of very nervous smiles. People like that just bother me so much. She said it's important to call it what it is, an experiment. Of course it's an experiment. Everything in the world is an experiment. What the hell are you talking about? Pretend internet money. What part of Bitcoin is pretend? Which part exactly is pretend about Bitcoin? Because it somehow in 15 years got $1.2 trillion market cap without any marketing, without any very poor marketing, I would say. Lots of FUD, lots of reverse marketing. When you have the ability to influence an entire population with your talking heads on TV telling them not to buy Bitcoin, it's still achieved $1.2 trillion worth of market cap. If you've sent Bitcoin before, if you've actually gone through the trouble of figuring out how to send a Bitcoin transaction, if you watch the whole process like we have on the show before, you could see that there's absolutely nothing pretend about that whole process. You plug in a miner, you could be anybody, anywhere on earth. You don't have to be an accredited investor. You don't have to have millions of dollars in investing. You could plug in a miner and you can start contributing to the Bitcoin network, and you can start earning money in Bitcoin through mining. Anybody can. Anybody with an electrical hookup at their house can mine Bitcoin. There's nothing pretend about Bitcoin. I don't know why people go on TV and say that. I don't know why they let people like that on TV to say that. I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. But the unfortunate thing about this whole situation here is that there's not a whole lot of people who watch the Daily Bitcoin Journey. There's still a lot of people who are at this age who have a lot of money that is about to get completely wiped out from the stock market. A lot of people who are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old that still watch this nonsense. And they hear somebody who they trust because they're on TV, a co-founder of what? Tezos? Whatever the hell Tezos is. She goes on there and calls it pretend internet money and calls it an experiment. Which part? Like, you have to go a little bit further and explain what makes it pretend, what makes an experiment still. I mean, everything's still an experiment in life. And if you're against that, then I mean, even the science lovers out there, those are experiments as well. Everything is always evolving. It's an experiment. The show is an experiment. Maybe I won't show up tomorrow because I get kicked off or I get tired of it. It's just, everything is. So what the hell are you talking about? And like I said, it's unfortunate because people rely on these news outlets like CNBC. And you got to give a shout out to Joe, what's his name? Scarborough or something? Squawk Box with Joe. He's a Bitcoiner. He gets it. But you have people like this come on and say things like that. And people without any sort of context, without any further explanation about it. And so people, I feel like the majority of people just hear that. And that's all that they remember. Bitcoin's, somebody on TV told me that Bitcoin's pretend internet money. They said it was still an experiment. It must be very early, very risky. And instead of looking at the actual data, they listen to some dipshit who has no idea what she's talking about on TV. And they're going to pay for it. It's unfortunate, but shout out to everybody out there who does not listen to the mainstream news and chooses to watch the Daily Bitcoin Journey instead, where we cover real stuff, not just words, not just buzzwords. Yeah, and Bitcoin Rumor's right. We should expect this, and it's going to continue. The haters come out every single time Bitcoin dips. It never fails. And it's true. There's people like her who just wait for this to happen, and then they come out, they get on TV, their company pays CNBC to be on TV for a while, and then they can trash Bitcoin while it's down. And once the price begins to rise, the haters retreat back to their caves. 100%. Aaron says, Goldhouse's land is not an experiment. Her metric is simple. If it was experimented generations before me, it was already experimented. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I mean, it will probably be another couple decades and people are still calling it an experiment. Maybe not. It took the internet 30 years to really catch on and become a staple in our lives. So we're about halfway into that with Bitcoin. I think it's going to move a lot faster. It already is. You have Wall Street adoption. You have the biggest capital in the world flowing into Bitcoin. And as the illusionary markets and everything else out there continue to melt away and deteriorate, all that capital is going to flow into Bitcoin. Rock and Roll says, can't listen to any normie who haven't even studied at least 20 hours. There's a lot of people who haven't put more than 20 minutes into Bitcoin and still think that they have an opinion on it. They can just, that's the internet for you though. And we should get used to that. Plunger says, you have to remember that these financial bigwigs have an agenda to maintain. They have a lot of customers into other asset classes to serve and protect. She's probably stacking hard without telling everyone. Like you said, rich people don't give out their game plan before they are already done making their play. Yeah, we've seen that exactly from who? Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon. They spent years on CNBC saying that Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin is... Somebody, I think it was Mark Cuban, said he would rather own Beanie Babies than Bitcoin. And then, old Mark, I watched the God Bless Bitcoin documentary, and guess who was on there? Talking about Bitcoin. Mark Cuban. There's not too many people on earth that I like less than Mark Cuban. Just such an arrogant, I mean, we can't decide who gets to be in Bitcoin, but I wish Mark Cuban had no ties to Bitcoin. But it's the same thing. They come out, Cuban says buying Beanie Babies is better. You see Jamie Dimon coming out calling Bitcoin, I forget what he called it. Buffett called it rat poison. Larry Fink said the same thing a couple of years ago. They're doing this because they're buying it. They're smart. They're not idiots. They're dipshits, but they're not idiots. So they spend all this time telling everybody, telling the average Joe, stay away from this, too risky, it's a Ponzi scheme. Meanwhile, they're buying in the background. And then once they're finished buying, or once they have enough of it, that's when they come out and say, you know what? Bitcoin's pretty legitimate. I could see this asset continuing to go up. It's a flight to safety, a flight to value. Once they've got all their Bitcoin that they want, that's when they start telling the people who watch CNBC that, yeah, maybe you should buy some of this. I've got all mine already, so now you can go ahead and buy some. It's disgusting. It's everything that's wrong with the world. People like that. People like Cuban. People like whoever that lady's name was. I don't even care enough to look, because I will never listen to her. I will never think about her again in my life. So Diego, great name. Crypto Shrimp says, better late than never. Hope we all having a fantastic Tuesday. It's been a good day today. We did a full show on YouTube. 123, no, not 100, hour and 23 minutes. And Crypto Shrimp says, times like these are for buying if you have the extra cash available, or touching grass if you don't. This too shall pass. That's great advice. And I like the second part of that. If you don't have any cash, it's hard. It's really hard. If you're a Bitcoiner, if you understand what's going on here and you see the price tank by 25% and you have no cash sitting on the sidelines, it's tough. Been there plenty of times and will continue to be there plenty of times in the future. So all you can do is just appreciate what you have, protect what you have, and focus on building and earning and finding ways every single day to earn more and more Bitcoin.